It's going to flash. There you go. You flashed.
All right. Think we're good.
Yeah, Skype has to change servers to do the recording because it's actually recorded on their servers rather than on one of our computers.
Yeah, I got the blink, so we're good.
Hmm. All right. So, Kat, it's really good to see you again. We were just talking about how, whether it's in a meditation retreat or when we're practicing alone, but there comes a point in time when our ability to observe begins to change.
Mm.
That one of the examples of what you're saying is that things begin to see and feel vibrantly alive. You can taste food differently.
Yeah.
All right, that the way that things looked before is almost like the movie Wizard of Oz, to where the first third or less of the movie, the first 20% of the movie, was in black and white, and
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
uh, in
That's a great
monochrome,
example.
and then when they got out of Kansas, which is all black and white, that's telling, into the land of Oz, it becomes stereophonic and in full color.
Yeah.
And
That's a
and
great
then
example.
okay, and so that's what kind
Yeah.
of happens to us is that we begin to wake up a kind of sensory awareness that had gone to sleep when we were kids.
Mm. Feels like I'm more of a kid now than I was in my teenager years, you know? When I was 18,
Mm-hmm.
19, 21, I started really, and now I feel like I'm going back in time or something. Like I'm younger. It's a very weird sense feeling like the present is just always there. That like that vibrantness is always there, but it seems to
Well,
get lost when you.
that's part of the analogy, that Jesus said it like this: you must be born again. You must become a child again. I think that must be born again. People got into rebirth and reincarnation and all of that kind of stuff, but he also said it this way: "To suffer the little children to come unto me, for such is the kingdom of God." Okay, for us to regain our childhood innocence as well as our childhood ability to experience the world, because when we were children the world was vibrantly alive, and as we grow up and mature we start to get hurt,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
as we get more and more hurt we want to tune the sensory awareness out.
exactly. Numb it all down, basically.
Right, so we dumb things down, we turn the color off, we turn the volume down, etc., like that, because it's too painful.
Yeah, yeah,
And when we are now practicing to come out of that pain, to come out of the dukkha, slowly, slowly the sensory awareness comes back to us.
yes.
This is well known and well documented,
Mm.
and
What?
you're experiencing it first class or directly. And so, congratulations for that.
Yeah,
Even though some of the less pleasant realities of the sensation now are going to feel more unpleasant, because originally, because they were unpleasant, we pushed those feelings down, we pushed the sensations down. Now that
yeah,
we're
yeah.
opening back up, the world presents itself to the senses in kind of a new way.
Yes, and especially with tensions, how I can feel tensions moving in my body. It's unbelievably strange. I've seen the patterns and how they move. Just like here, moving down, moving in my jaw, pushes my jaw. Every time I sit, just moving, then it goes to my head. I'm like, it's like a worm or something, you know? It
Uh-huh.
tenses up, closes, and then I sit and it just keeps happening. Then it usually dissipates quite a bit, slows down, and then I start to feel that aliveness, that vibrant. Everything becomes more intense, and then I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, it's becoming more intense and becoming more intense, and then I'm like, wow, and then I, you know, What I describe it as, it's I'm almost identical to doing psychedelics. Really, it's very similar. So, and I really question what's happening in the brain because it's so similar. It's crazy. And I haven't done psychedelics in a long time, but
I would put it backwards to that. That the experiences that people have in psychedelics is an experience of opening. That the old boundaries that we've been putting up, all of these shoulds, woulds, coulds, in a way you could say that the psychedelic drugs actually numbs the super ego, which is the mid cortex of the brain, leaving the frontal cortex and the anterior cortex functioning, but it kind of shuts down that verbal. That's why people who are on psychedelics, they don't talk much other than wow and gosh. And that's about all they have to say. It's because all of those would, shoulds, and coulds. Here's an example of that. That when the Coca-Cola spills upon the floor in the front room, the rule is to go clean it up. But when someone has a psychedelic drug, or if it's a 3-year-old who doesn't have that rule, the 3-year-old can get just as absorbed in the spectacular wonderment of Coca-Cola moving along the floor while it bubbles.
Yeah.
And that can happen also in the psychedelic.
Yeah.
But what happens to everyone else is those rules come in. You're not supposed to watch a puddle of Coca-Cola on the floor. You're supposed to clean it up. And so that's what takes over the mind.
Yes.
Okay. And so this is where we can talk about why the psychedelics have their value, but practicing Anapanasati correctly has more value and is less dangerous.
Yeah, it's far more satisfying to practice like this than relying on something.
Well, it's temporary at best.
Yeah. It doesn't really work, I don't think. It doesn't really change you, I don't think.
Well, it's possible that because of a psychedelic experience, people will go seeking stuff.
Yeah.
Like they'll go to a guru or they'll start meditation, and then you can say, well, maybe the psychedelics did have a change because before they weren't interested in anything, and now they're becoming interested in what was that psychedelic experience, etc., like that, which will then take them into, let us say, more wholesome activities. That's actually quite typical. That's one of the reasons why the psychedelics have stayed popular, is because people occasionally get a chance to actually wake up and be in reality, rather than being in the world or the rules of the world that they're supposed to be in. They can actually be a kid again.
Yes. It feels like after practice, you just feel like you're really in reality, like with the wind. You can really feel the wind blowing against your skin or the leaves in the air. You can notice things like just a fly. You could just notice it. Like it's very weird. It's just like things are always there, but you just simply don't notice them. But when you're practicing really well, you start to notice everything in your experience. Like it's so alive. It's like so fresh, and no matter what it is, it's so interesting too. It's very interesting. Like it's like that's unbelievable. What is that?
Everything becomes interesting. You're right. Okay, curiosity comes back alive, as opposed to when you see something like you see that fly. Either you have the thought, "Oh, I hate flies," or "Those flies shouldn't be here," or anything like that, and we immediately go back into our thinking process, to where in fact actually watching a fly is very interesting.
Yeah.
But we've got all of these rules about flies being bad.
Yeah.
And so we start thinking about murdering flies rather than thinking about interesting flies. So the waking up process that you're talking about happens in the body as well as through our perception. Our perception begins to change because we begin to drop some of the very heavy feeling sankharas.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
And so for a little while, when we perceive things, things are bright. They're beautiful. And if we're practicing well, then they will get more bright, more and clear more often.
Yes, and one thing is that um, I think I don't know if I mentioned it to you in the last video, but about accessing that state has become very quick now. It's like
Mm-hmm.
there's a very it's just very quick to get out of the hindrances and into that very present feeling. Um,
Well, that takes practice.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
congratulate yourself for putting in good practice because you know that it's got the results because you're experiencing the results of being able to come out of the hindrances. And the more we practice coming out of them, the actually easier it is to come out of them.
Yes, I'll say one thing. When I'm out of them and I'm sitting for a while and I get up, what I have trouble with, it's what I have trouble with is I'm enjoying things a lot
Mm-hmm.
and I'm enjoying feeling a lot. So I start to see when I'm doing something and first I get the good strong elation of the doing something, the good big feeling, and then I'm continually doing it, I'm enjoying it, and then I start to see, wow, this is actually hurting me, you know? I'm seeing this cycle more and more that what
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing is hurting me. It's actually painful to do this. But there's this feeling I can't stop doing it, you know? That the habit is still very strong in craving. The habit is still very strong in clinging, I would say, clinging to something.
Well, here's the point in that is that while the habit is still strong, something new has habit, and that is that you can see that habit and see the strength of it.
Yeah.
Most people can't see their habits and they don't know how strong they are.
Oh,
And
they're
so,
strong.
again, this is marking progress that you can see these habits and see how strong they are.
Yeah.
That's also part of the reason why the Buddha has the third step of Anapanasati. It's not a step. One of the items in the Veda of the Kaya Nupassana of the body is to experience the body, to learn the body, because that's where we're going to learn where all of the tensions and all of the anxieties and other things like that. I've had students the first time that they called and they got the information. The second time they call about anxiety that they didn't have before, right? That's because they're beginning to practice correctly and they're beginning to see the anxiety,
Yeah, yeah.
which, which means that they're not fast enough yet to see the thoughts or the hindrances that cause those anxieties. That we literally, every time that we're afraid, we have to talk ourselves into being afraid again.
Hmm.
We'll see something, and then we'll think about how bad this is going to be, and then we feel afraid. And if we keep doing that at a subtle level, that's what anxiety is just building up a little bit of fear and keeping it
Hmm.
without doing anything about it.
Yeah.
But that's just one of the examples. Another one could be facial tensions, neck tensions, all of that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And so we experience that with the idea then of having happy thoughts about that. Oh, I see you, neck. Oh, I feel that tension. Maybe I can massage it and find out where the tension is and let it, in other words, we begin to nourish the tension
Yeah.
because
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
our normal way of doing it is to criticize the tension. Oh, you're not supposed to have tension. You're in meditation. What are you doing being all tensed up? You know,
Yeah.
that's the kind of thoughts that we have, which just keep the tension going. A better way of doing it is saying, oh, I recognize that tension I've been carrying around. I can see that stuff now.
Yeah.
Let me nourish it and give it a good positive massage, and everything's going to be okay. And so then we go back then from the Vedana back to the mental, to the sita, to the talking to ourselves to make sure that the things that we're saying, the thoughts that we're having, are wholesome thoughts. because we weren't paying attention really well. That's why the anxiety comes up.
Mm.
It's because we talked ourselves into anxiety somehow, and it can be quick. It can be it can be one mind moment.
Yes, that's exactly it. It just appears like that. And you
Mm-hmm.
can, when you're sitting for a while, you can see the thought is almost at a distance, and it doesn't hit you, but you can see it and you can stop it before it takes a really strong formation. You know, it doesn't form in the body with such the strength it usually does. You can see it at a distance or something. Like things are coming at a distance. They're far away. They're loose. They're very mushy. You know. Yeah, they don't have that solid form that they do, and the formation comes up. It's like wow. When you're not sitting for a long time and you're not practicing, everything is so real. You know. It's so real and felt real. It's horrible, negative, and solid and heavy. And you're practicing for a while. It's very light. It's light. It's
Right. The
yeah,
reality doesn't leave, but the heaviness of it leaves.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The
Okay.
heaviness.
Okay. So, just as a little experiment, a thought experiment for a second, how heavy is this cup?
Uh,
It's about half full of coffee. How heavy is it?
Probably not that heavy. Not so heavy. How heavy is it?
Yeah. Notice that I did not ask you how much it weighs. That's a scientific question. I ask you an emotional question. How heavy is it? And the answer to that is when I first asked that question, it wasn't heavy. Now it's beginning to get heavy.
Oh, okay.
Okay. What's changed? The cup hasn't changed, but the heaviness of the cup has changed because the heaviness is my experience of the cup.
Okay, okay. The cup
All
hasn't
right.
changed. The
Huh?
cup hasn't changed.
The cup hasn't changed, but my
Okay.
experience of the cup has changed. And so in the beginning, it wasn't heavy, but then it got heavy,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, 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 yeah. Wow, that's a really good example.
Oh, well,
Yes.
but we do that in the mind. When we carry stuff around in the mind, it gets heavy. And when we put it down and then pick it up later, it's not heavy again.
Mm.
But what gets heavy is when we carry things around. We've got a problem to solve. We've got something to fix. We're worried. Okay. And worry is the kind of samsara that's in a tight little circle that makes things heavier and heavier and heavier just because we keep carrying it. If we put it down and not dwell on it, not worry about it, then it's not heavy. It's only heavy when we carry it.
Mm.
And so back then to the sensations in the body that you've been carrying for a while, you can
Yeah,
recognize that in fact you had actually uh, talked about anger. You've mentioned anger specifically.
yeah.
Okay. Here's something very, very interesting. This is quite scientific and it's got some examples. Okay. Um, let's start with this one. Okay. Why does a big male lion have a mane? What's the point of the mane on a big lion? You know what I'm
He's
talking
the
about? The
yeah,
mane?
yeah.
All of
Mm.
that hair. Okay. Do you know why it's there?
Maybe to sh appear he's the big boy, the big man. No.
Actually, that's a secondary quality. But the important point is that lions, by their nature, by their DNA, when they're out on the hunt, their whole point is to get a hold of whatever animal is so that they can go for the neck, go for the jugular.
The mane is to
Right?
protect the lion's neck, really. Okay.
Right. So the mane is to protect the lion's mane or the neck from other lions that have a mane.
All right. Okay. Okay.
And Darwin pointed out that the lion who has the biggest mane may in fact be the head of the pride, to where a bigger, stronger, tougher lion is laying there dead because his mane wasn't big enough to protect him.
Ah, okay.
All right. So that gives us DNA knowledge of about how important the neck area is. It's like that we protect our own jugular. We do this sometimes. We protect ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That in fact you can see both in the armor of the Middle Ages, but more so in the Asian armor of the Middle Ages. And in Thailand, they've got it really overboard where they have a very, very big sweeping loop up
Yeah.
here. Or you have
Swords.
shoulder boards. All of this is to protect so that if the sword comes through, it doesn't wind up getting to the neck. The
Mm.
neck is a very vulnerable place
That's
for
where most
all
of the
of
tensions are, I would say. Like
this.
very
Exactly.
like
Uh-huh.
yeah, yeah.
And, and so you're actually experiencing that part of the DNA that when we get uptight, this is where we get tight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the
And,
jaws
and,
too.
and
Under
in the
here.
jaw and in the neck. And
Yeah.
also, yes, and because of the neck tensions, the blood doesn't flow well out of the head. It gets pumped right up into the head, and then it's no place to go, which causes facial tensions. It causes headaches. It causes muscular spasms. And many people wind up, they can't meditate because it gives them headaches. Why? Well, it's their thoughts that are giving them headaches. They're just sitting still and doing a whole lot of negative thinking, and they wind up getting all uptight and everything like this. So now we can say, aha, we got a new friend. We've got a new ally. We've got a new messenger.
Mm.
So we're going to start paying great attention to this messenger, which is the body. The body is a messenger. And all of the
Yeah.
parts of the body are messengers, and we as children and in our society learn to stop paying attention to what the body is telling us and start listening to what other people are telling us.
Yeah. I could also say there was one point this week when I saw how my greed actually felt like a contraction in my heart. The greed, like I saw this wanting more, started to feel
Mhm.
like my heart is like, don't do that, you know, that's bad. That's bad for you if I do that. I saw it so clearly. You know,
Yes.
I never saw it like that in my life. I never saw this impulse in my heart, like this is actually hurting you. Like this is pain. Like this is bad. But that habit of the greed was what I've been doing for most of my life, like more and more and
A-
more.
Absolutely. You can, in fact, understand why our language says that people get twisted up with anger. We get the body actually uh, let's just say it this way, that when the mind is full of chemicals, those chemicals through our pituitary system, through the limbic system, give data down to the adrenaline gland in the back that puts out all kinds of stuff into the blood system, which does affect the body. That tension, some people experience it as anxiety in the chest, or you can experience as tightness in the neck or headaches or whatnot like that. It's just really the blood and the body in the combination with all the chemicals that the mind has added to the body.
Yeah.
And so when you feel the tension in the neck or in the throat or whatever like that, you can say, hot dog, thank you for pointing out that I need to take a deep breath and let all of that stuff out of the body and start massaging the body so that it becomes relaxed. That the whole point about really experiencing the body well has got a point to it, and that is so we can finally relax it. Because
Yeah.
we've been tense and uptight this whole all these years, and we didn't even know it. We didn't know that we were not relaxed.
Yeah, and one
And
thing is you can really see the difference between long breathing and short breathing now. Like I can really feel the difference. There really is a massive difference when I control the long breath and then I do that kind of short breath. I really feel like wow, it has a huge impact on this on the system, the body. Really
mm-hmm,
way more than I could when I started Anapanasati like I don't know, maybe a year ago, less than a year ago. I couldn't feel that difference. Like it wasn't easily picked up from me. I couldn't pick it up. Even though I would breathe, I couldn't pick it up. Now it's within like 20, 30 seconds, I could start to feel this huge
But
difference.
now that you're getting in tune with yourself,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's almost like you've got a local radio station, and the car radio is not playing the music that everybody else is playing, simply because our car radio is out of tune. And if we would tune that station in, we could hear it. So basically, what we're saying here is that the body has been broadcasting all of its grief, all of its pleasures, all of its everything, and the mind's not been listening to it, not been paying attention to what the body is telling.
Hmm.
Now that you're tuning directly into the body by intentionally experiencing the body, guess what? You're beginning to see things you never saw before, or at least not in years.
Yeah, it's great. It's amazing. Like I can't convey to you how, for me, being so numb for most of my life, this is kind of mind blowing. Like it's just hard to convey. I don't know how to convey the excitement.
Actually,
Uh,
it's not so much mind blowing, it's just proof that the mind's already been blown. The
okay.
cage that the mind is in has been blown apart, and now the mind and can actually now connect with the body because you're beginning to pay attention to the reality rather than being in that box or in the cage of only having thoughts about the things you should be thinking about.
Yeah.
And now we're expanding that. We're opening that or blowing that box out, in fact.
Yeah, but it makes me think about all of these psychological terms like PTSD, dissociation, because I used to, I guess, label myself as dissociated. And I start to see all of these different terms in psychology, and I see a lot of people on the internet going through this same experience. And at least in dissociation, it just feels like you are removed from the body and you're kind of trapped up in your head. And it feels like because you numb yourself to a certain emotion like anxiety for so long, very intensely, it's like you burn, or it's like you can just burn away the body in the sense of you numb out the body and you get trapped up here. But
Mm-hmm.
it can get really to a point of deep suffering in a way that you can like contract that awareness so much. It's like so isolating from the senses. And I see so many people going through that, basically that dissociation, but it's very hard to convey what's required to come back into the body, because if you say to someone, oh, you just need to feel again, allow yourself to feel what you're feeling in the body. Oh, uh, continually just keep doing, and things will start to surface, things will start to go back in
Uh-huh.
their own flow. It just takes time. um, I
Well,
find.
here's the thing about that. Here's the point. You can give that good advice to someone. Now imagine that someone had given you good advice, right? In fact, how many times have you gotten good advice but you didn't follow up on it? This
Yeah.
is the problem. Is that in fact what you're beginning to talk about is that it's not getting in touch with your feelings and getting in touch with your body. Anybody can do that when you mention it to them. And then they'll
Yeah.
forget all about it again and go back into their head. This is why we need to practice this stuff. You need to practice paying attention to the body. You need to
Hmm.
practice the long, deep breathing to help us get in touch with the body. That's the whole point. And you can tell, or I can tell at least, that you've been practicing correctly because now you're talking about neck tensions and throat tensions and all of that kind of stuff with the body that you can recognize now has always been there. You just didn't pay any attention to it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And now you can see it because you're paying attention to the body.
Hmm.
But the rules are you're not supposed to pay attention to the body, you're supposed to pay attention to the teacher.
Hmm.
Johnny, stop daydreaming. Stop looking out the window. Pay attention. You're in school now. And then, and that's what happens to the kids is that we are talked into not paying attention to what we're doing anymore. All we are going to now pay attention to is what we're told.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Pretty much. Um,
And
yeah,
so, what a new way of living.
yeah.
This,
I could kind of see this direction too. And one particular time is I felt this strong magnet, like a pull in just letting go. It just seems that you just constantly let go. That's all there is. There's nowhere to go. Like you just keep letting go and you start to see everything.
again,
Every time you want to go somewhere, no, you just come back to letting go. But it keeps coming up in different ways to try to go somewhere, you know? I think that's the
mhm,
last time I called you. You pointed that out to me that I think that I always think that maybe there's somewhere to progress. There's more, there's something more there's a goal in this jhana, like there's more pity to develop. There's somewhere to go instead of just coming back and just being satisfied, just letting go. Then it keeps coming to you. It just comes to you, like, you know, it just comes to you if you just let go.
mhm.
It's just like that. It just comes to you. And yeah, like just really nothing to do, really.
Right. Now, here's the point, though, is that just like I was talking about, you can mention to somebody to pay attention to the feelings, and they can for a short time, and then they'll go back into their old patterns. This also happens with this, too. This is why we have to keep practicing and keep
Yeah.
practicing. So, you say that you let go.
Yeah. And then I get
But
up
then
though.
you
I'll
have to
get
let go again.
up.
Why do you, if you just let go, why do you have to let go again? It's because you're holding something again.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah,
you
yeah.
recognize? Yeah, what did you pick up and when did you pick it up so that you don't have to pick it up, but then you don't have to let it go. But in the process of practicing, we begin to have to let go and let go and let go and let go because we're not watching it. We keep picking stuff back up over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so,
that's what I'm doing right now when it comes to maybe my computer, for example. Like when I see my computer, boom, something comes up in the mind and I want to do it. And I'll do it. And now I'm just seeing like this is it feels great now, but it's kind of boring. Like it's so enjoyable that um I'm not hooked on it so much, but I'm just kind of bored of it. I'm like seeing how empty this is. Like this desire is really not like it's enjoyable, but it's not very satisfying. It goes away much quicker. I'm like, this is kind of like what I thought I really liked. I don't really enjoy this anymore. It's kind of
okay.
boring, you know,
So
empty.
maybe this word fits for you. The word is called disillusion. Now,
Yeah, yeah.
like a dissolving, okay, that things
Mm.
fall apart. All right, now you probably know that in the Mahasi method they've got 16 stages of insight.
I've heard about that, but I don't
Okay,
remember
well
them.
uh, here's the point though, and that is that now you're beginning to see that things are all falling apart like that, but you've got a lot of wisdom going on with it, so that the disillusion doesn't freak you out.
Mm.
That you just already know that things are falling apart, that they're, that everything is empty. But that's a joyable place.
Yeah.
In the Mahasi method, they don't protect, protect the students. They don't warn them in advance that when you go through this disillusionment, it winds up being both boring and terrifying. It becomes misery. And we become disgusted with the fact that you can't hold on to anything. It all keeps falling apart. But then the Mahasi method goes is that gives us the redoubling up our effort. Okay, so now right effort is coming in, as well as the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Noble Path. So I've actually just described step 5 with the disillusion. 6 is fear. 7 is misery. 8 is disgust and despair. Um, 9 is a strong desire to get out of it, followed by the effort that it takes to do it. And then step 12 is the uh, getting on the path correctly, or the real Eightfold Noble Path. So what we're doing is we're doing it in correct order so that you're ready for the fact that things are going to start looking like they're falling apart. Everything
Yeah.
but that's okay. It was already that way. What's different is your understanding of it. Not that the world is falling apart in front of you. No, you're falling the world apart in front of it.
Okay. Yeah.
And so by that we can say, okay, we'll let the world fall apart. That's all right. No problem here.
That was actually one of the most amazing states, I guess. It's that empty feeling. Everything is just
Hmm.
empty, and it's the most actually beautiful state. Everything is so alive. It's just unbelievable. When and it I don't get to stay in that very long, because when I get out of it, I would say a good 4 hours, 5 hours, I can start to feel that motion again of the obscurity of the mind, how it starts to obscure things. And yeah, how perceptions are coming up and falling away. But that empty feeling is actually the best, probably the most um, unbelievable state or feeling there is. Yeah, it's
Now, one of the things that the Buddha makes sure to talk about in that kind of emptiness is that it's got two major qualities to it. One, and the most important, which leads to the second, which is secondary, but at times it affects us. Okay, the first point is everything is empty of an inherent nature. In other words, a car is not a car. A car is just a collection of parts and components. There
yeah,
is no inherent carness anywhere. Ford doesn't have an inherent car.
yeah,
Tesla doesn't have an inherent car. There's no such thing as carness, right? It's all put together. It's all a sankara, right? Which means that everything begins to fall apart, but because it has no essential element to
yeah,
it.
yeah,
And you don't either. That's the important part, that humans also, um, uh, there's no Cathal ness,
yeah. Okay.
right?
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
there's no essential you. That there's everything that's there is just a matter of constituent components, and they're all put together.
yes,
Okay. Now, because there is no inherent self or inherent uh, essence in anything, it's devoid of essence. That's what makes them empty. And because it's devoid of essence, it's also devoid of meaning. That nothing means anything
yeah,
because nothing itself is essential. There is nothing whole or solid there. Everything is made up. Even water is not essential. They call it an element, but it's not really elemental. Now they know that water is nothing but both hydrogen and oxygen mixed together. But now the newer physics is understanding that even hydrogen atom is not essential. It's not elemental because it too has constituent component parts. And they've gotten down with quantum theory and string theory and whatnot, and recognizing that there is nothing solid anywhere.
yeah,
Everything is a matter of music. Everything is a matter of a wave or a string that's vibrating or something like that, except that the string that's vibrating is not a string, it's just a vibrating. And when we understand that, even with our own mind, we can say that I can see that stuff, I can observe it, and the observation is there, but there is no observer. Just like there is walking, but there is
yes,
no walker, right? This
yeah.
is where it gets really, really to the verge of empty.
I
Okay,
hear a lot
things
of
are,
guys. I hear a lot of guys talk about their experience in the sense of, as they continue along the path, there is no sense of this observer, but I can still feel that observer. Right? Like
mm-hmm,
I know there's something there. It has it's like perpetually moving me or something. Like there's something still there,
right. But
and it's
when you
tension.
actually observe the observer,
Yeah,
You
it
find
just,
out that there is no observer, just observing.
yeah.
But we need to go back to the point about the point that there is no essence. But when we are under the delusion that there is an essence, that there is a me there, that there is a value, that there is a carness in the car, what that does is it gives us the delusion, actually the rule that it exists and it's important. Importance comes because of the delusion that things are not empty, when in fact they actually are empty. They're empty of self, empty of meaning, that you're observing is too empty because there's no observer there, just observing.
Mm.
Now, this is an important point for that issue of the emptiness because we recognize that things are not empty when they become important. Important enough to carry around, enough important to care about. And that's where the suffering comes from because things get heavy. Why do they get heavy? It's because we carry them around. Just like this cup gets heavy. And the
Yeah.
only thing, and because it was important enough to me to prove to you that cups get heavy when you hold them a long time, I held it a long time. But now that the cup is no
Yeah.
longer important, I can set the darn thing down, and now it's not heavy.
Yes, and one thing I said to you was about sati and unremitting sati, and I said I feel like my sati is actually very conditional because it's not unremitting because I'm waking up like many times
Well,
I'm
that's what
awake.
unremitting. It keeps coming back. It keeps
Yeah,
coming.
but it's not at that point where it's just like it's not that
It's not ever going to be.
oh, okay, okay.
No, it's always got to keep coming back and coming back. That's what it means by the word unremitting.
Ah,
Okay,
okay, okay.
here's an example of that that may show you what we're talking about. Okay, this is a drum head, like a timpani or a snare drum or whatever like that that they beat on it with okay, and then you have the mallet. And how does the mallet? It hits the drum, boom, 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 and we get into rhythm with that drum. We make music with that drum. Okay, that's the sati then that keeps
Yeah,
hitting reality.
yeah, yeah.
Now, here's the question for you. Is this the correct way of playing the drum?
No.
Well, that's the kind of sati that you want to have, and sati doesn't work that way. Every moment is a new moment. You got to hit the drum again.
Hmm. I
But it's
remember.
easy to do because we've gotten into the habit of doing it now. Now it becomes really easy peasy to keep waking up and keep
Yeah,
waking up
it's
because we're in the
very
habit
easy.
of doing it now. In the beginning, it's hard work because we're not used to doing it.
Yeah. I remember you mentioned one time someone was talking to you about Sotapan and Arahat, and you said that, um, I'm probably paraphrasing this way too much, but you said that Arahat the things don't come up in his mind, but maybe paraphrasing this a lot, someone may have, let's say, 7 more lives or something like that. And you're saying maybe the anagami, um,
The Anagami will think of it, but he won't let it out. The
yeah, and
Arahat
then but
just
the
doesn't let
arahat,
it out.
yeah. So does
But the
does
Arahat, he doesn't care.
okay. So for the arahat, the sati for that person, that would still like, does the sati still work in the same way if nothing's coming up? Because what does he have to?
No, what did come up? Let us say the student came up and complained about his practice to the Anagami, and the Anagami is going to entertain him and listen to what he has to say. The Arahat's not interested
Okay.
because he brings
All
sati
right. All right.
immediately.
Okay. Okay. So unremitting simply means that you're just constantly being like this.
Just
You're just
you're there for it.
okay. Okay.
Okay.
I misunderstood it then because I thought that unremitting means your sati is so sharp that it simply doesn't leave. Like you're just
No, no,
that
no,
no.
no.
Okay.
let me give you a whole bunch of examples. Many of them have to do with sports. But you've also been in the situation that you were sitting at a table, and for some reason or another, a cup fell off the table, and you were able to catch it. Not only were you able to catch it, but you catch it so that not even all the liquid spilled out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Now that means that you use words like sharp, right? Because you had actually at a child practice being able to catch things. Okay, so let's give another example of that, and that is the let us say big league baseball pitcher throws a big lead fastball, 90 miles an hour, so they say, and the batter sees that ball coming and he hits that ball a straight line back to the pitcher, and the pitcher's able to catch that. I mean, this didn't hardly take a couple of seconds, and look at his reaction time. That in fact, what they have shown is that many animals have a faster reaction time than humans. That humans have a typical reaction time about 350 milliseconds, down to a black belt would have it at 200. A world class gymnast or a gold medalist would be at like 180, and yet we've got many animals that are 100 under 100 milliseconds. Why? Because in 100 milliseconds they're dead. They got to be fast.
Mm.
Okay, so this is what we mean by sati. We want it to be fast, not slow and already there. We want it to come and get us really quickly.
Okay.
That's what we mean by unremitting mindfulness, is that we're going to be there for it.
Okay.
Okay, so here's another example. The football player was in an interview on NSL, Saturday Night Live. They had played this same skit with 4 or 5 different people and then put them together as a collage. And what the situation is their guest is sitting there having a conversation, and someone off camera throws a great big plastic fish at them. And by and large, it was a big joke because one woman after another kept getting hit right in the face with that plastic fish. And then they had a very big football star come on. They did the same thing with him, throwing it to him off of camera, off to the side, and he just grabbed it right out of the air without even changing his direction. I mean, he didn't have to bother to look. That fish came at him and he just grabbed it right out of the air. Okay, now that means that he's got the skill so that his sati was unremitting. He was
Mm.
able to see that thing and then have hand-eye coordination that fast.
Mm.
Okay, we need to be able to do that with our mind, because our mind is even faster than that
Yes.
flying fish.
It just came into my mind. I was going to say, well, the mind is really like just this, it's just like it's immediate. It's so fast. It's so fast. And if you're not,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
And so often our sati, when it comes on the second, third, or fourth, or fifth cycle. We're
Mm.
slow with our sati.
Yeah.
That we've
Yeah.
already gotten enough bad feelings that we're feeling bad before we even wake up to the fact that this thought is unwholesome. Okay, so as we continue to practice, we'll get it down from 5 mind moments down to 4 mind moments. And then our sati is getting faster and faster so that we can pull that thought right out of the air before it slaps us. That in fact you can imagine doing that same Saturday Night Live thing, to where the same woman, the same contestant who is unskilled in any of this kind of sports stuff that we're talking about, catching stuff out of the air, how many times is she's going to be hit in the face with that fish and get back into her conversation and getting it going again, and then later somebody throws a fish at her? How long is it going to take her to catch a fish?
Yeah.
Or at least dodge it, or at least bat it out of the way, instead of just getting hit in the face with it, right? 5, 6, 7
Yeah.
times, are they going to be able? Is she going to be able to do it the second time they throw that fish at her? Is she going to be there for it and get out of the way of it?
Mm.
Okay, so this is what we mean by fast sati. How fast does it mean? Is that can we have it in that first mind moment, like the arahat? His sati is fast enough that he can see things coming
Mm.
and deal with it like that, to where the anagami is going to be slow. He's going to have a mind moment or two before his sati kicks in. Down to the Sotapan, it may take him 7 or 8 times before he figures out that he should pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm.
at least he's ready for it, because your average Joe Blow is not ever going to pick it up. He's just going to keep getting hit by that fish over and over and over again, and he doesn't even know that he should be on guard. Fishes are flying.
Mm.
Okay, so here we are now in practice of Anapanasati, because we know that the fishes of dukkha is flying. There's dukkha fish flying all the time. We need to be aware. We need to start watching.
Yeah, it's very, and when you first sit, of course, you start to see that it's very quick. I guess it moves and it loses its potency, I guess. That sati feeling, or I feel like I lose the potency of sati as I go out through the day. And what I was going to ask maybe is, mm, I remember listening to a video with you and Daniel, that Daniel maybe was at the top of the hour, he would sit and do Anapanasati for a couple of minutes or something like that. And I mean, your original advice was to go and sit multiple times a day,
Yes.
which is
To
still
build
an,
up that sati, if you sit for one time for an hour, you may have a good sati for a little while, but then
yeah.
the mind's going to get dull. We're going to go into a sleepy stupor and call it deep meditation, where in fact it's just
Yeah.
deep
Yeah.
not watching.
Yeah.
That
Um,
the real practice is to wake up and be alive, to be alert, to see what's going on, to be here now.
mm,
And
mm.
most of the Westerners, because of the problem of the word concentration, they think that the practice is going to be a deep practice. It's not deep at all. The deep means that you're underwater. Don't do that.
Mm,
We need
yeah.
to come back up to the surface. We need to see what's going on and be quick about it.
Um, mm.
Here,
So,
here's an example of that, okay? Junior is in his bedroom playing with his TV or his computer, and he hears Dad walk down the hall. And when he's here, Dad walk down the hall, he can flip the light switch, turn the monitor off, and jump in bed before Dad opens the door.
yeah.
Okay, that's sati. Why?
Okay.
Because it would be really dangerous for that kid to get caught by his dad playing the
Mm,
computer when he's supposed to be asleep.
mm,
Okay, so that means that he's listening. He's listening for those footsteps coming down. And now here's another example. Maybe a few years later, that kid is now in university and he's writing code on his computer at night. And dad comes in, opens the door, and says good night to his son. And the son doesn't even move his eyes off of the keyboard or off the screen. He just ignores his dad. No sati at all.
mm.
And his dad gets unhappy. Why aren't you paying attention? I said good night to you, you dirty little, you
Yeah.
know. All right.
Yeah.
But both of them had to do with he got himself into trouble with his dad because he wasn't paying attention to his dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
first guy, he was paying attention because he knew that his dad's going to give him a hard time. All he needs to do is hear the footsteps coming down the hall, and he's flap, flap into bed,
Mm.
and then the door opens. Okay, so that's the kind of sati that we want to develop. Is the sati that's there so that when we hear something, we can jump right on it. Because he wasn't sitting there playing with his computer, listening to see if his dad was coming. He was listening. He was there on the computer, and just out of the corner of his ears, he heard his dad coming down the hall, and that sati
Yes.
brought him right into the present moment. But
Yes.
later, his dad opening the door and saying good night did not bring sati.
Yeah. Ah, that's actually a great that because I used to do that when I was a kid. So I remember yeah, this is a great example for me actually to because I guess a lot of the time I don't see the danger in certain things, certain objects in the mind. I don't see the danger in them, but now I see craving is very. It's just it's just dukkha.
Right.
It's
It's
just,
got a bodily component too, as
yeah.
you were telling me.
It's
Right. It's when,
quite a tension in the head too. The craving. It's like a
Mhm.
someone's squeezing your
Right. We
brain.
squeeze up, we tighten up, we tighten the head, we tighten our chest, we all get tight. You know,
Why
that's
do
what
I
they
keep
mean by
doing
a
it? You know, why do I keep doing it? It's very
because you're in the habit of doing it. You've
yeah.
been doing it for years. And it's an automatic process. Can you bring your sati up to the point of when it happens, can you catch it happening so that you can undo the damage in progress? It's really
Yes,
good to put out a fire when it first starts. Once the
yeah,
thing burning the building down, your water doesn't help all that much.
yes. That's exactly it. It's the fire. Can you put out the fire before it becomes a wildfire? That's really it. Yeah, that's really actually it. That's really it. Yeah, yeah. That's actually it. Um. mm, okay, okay, okay. That was great, actually. That was so helpful. Thank you. Okay. Mm,
Okay.
okay.
Well,
Yeah.
let's finish this talk, but I will finish off with the point about congratulations. You're beginning to really see all of what's going on in the body. And if you can kind of put it in the back of the mind that you're going to start paying attention to what the body is doing, not just during the 5 or 10 minutes of meditation, but whenever you just think about it. Oh, I'm going to check things out. How do I feel? What am I doing? What's the mind doing? What's the body doing? And all of that. And we begin to do that quite often. It leads me to the final joke. And that was that there was a Catholic priest, a Jewish rabbi, and a Buddhist monk all found themselves sitting together in an airplane. It's the old bar joke. Okay, and they were having a polite chat, but nobody believed anything that anybody said. And then all of a sudden, the plane had massive turbulence. Kachonga, and all the stuff falls out and everything like that. And the Catholic priest is doing his genuflect, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he looks over, and the Jewish rabbi is doing the same thing. And then he looks over at the Buddhist monk, and the Buddhist monk is doing the same thing. And he says, "Hot dog, I was getting through to them. And now that this turbulence has come, they know God." And so the Catholic and so
Ah.
the Catholic priest asks the rabbi, "Well, what are you doing? I see you genuflecting." He says, "Oh, no, 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 my son. I'm just checking." "What do you mean checking?" "Oh, I'm checking, spectacles, testicles, watch, and wallet."
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And then he turned to the Catholic priest turned to the Buddhist monk, and he says, "Well, what are you doing?" And he says, "Oh, I'm doing very much like the Jewish rabbi. I'm checking to see, is my mind okay? Is my behavior all right? Is my heart in the right place? Am I
Mm,
breathing well?"
mm,
Okay, so this is how we want to go around our whole lives: is keep checking it out.
yeah.
How's my mind? How's my behavior? How's my heart? How's my breathing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we,
Okay.
we want to keep checking, to remember to check.
Mm,
And by
mm,
remembering to check often, that keeps that memory system going. That's the sati, is to keep remembering, to keep checking, to keep remembering, to keep checking things out.
mm.
Because only once we check it out, which is the same thing as the investigation, part of the Eightfold Noble Path, and then we can make a change. But we want to practice checking things out often, which means we are also practicing to remember to check things out often.
Yeah. Oof.
And so check out the body often. Check your breathing often. Check what's on your mind often. Check how you feel often.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. This talk was really wonderful. Really.
I like that with spectacles, testicles, watch, and wallet. That was the original joke. Everything else after that I added to it myself with the Buddhist monk and all. But yeah, that's an old joke. Spectacles, testicles, watch, and wallet. Keep checking.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
see, within the Catholic monk system, what they do is they've made a ritual out of it. It's just a behavioral pattern that they do, that genuflect.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
we're doing is we're making it real.
Mm.
We're
Mm.
checking, sure. Can I see? How's my behavior? How's my heart? How's my breathing?
Mm.
And so we keep checking it over and over again. So remember that. Remember that you can check. That's the whole thing, is to get that sati fast, because we can wake up. And we don't need plastic fish thrown at us. The slings and arrows of outrageous fortune are coming all the time, all
Yeah.
on their own.
Yeah. There's enough there.
There's enough there.
Yeah, there's enough there.
Wakey,
Okay.
wakey, there's enough there to see.
Mm. Mm. I'm going to the What this weekend, so maybe I'll call you soon about how things are going with that. But I feel like the trajectory seems to be very natural. Like I just keep doing it, and it just comes to you more and more and more and more.
Yeah. And we get into the rhythm of, hey, I like this. Life is okay. This is good enough.
Mm. Okay. All right.
All right. Well, we'll see you later, Kat. Good to
All right.
see
See
you
you. Good to see you too. Bye bye.
again.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.